Hot button.
Overwatch, blah, blah, blah. Me and the 14 people who still play Overwatch are mad.
Overwatch is still pretty big.
I know. It's the most incredible game ever made.
It really is great. You should play Siege, though.
I don't have the patience for Siege.
It's not
because
that
if you think I get angry when somebody picks Bastion on attack in Overwatch, do not even test me for how angry I would get at the game like Siege.
All right, that's fair. All right. This is Hot Button. We're
What's up, buttholes?
Yeah, we'll do. We're gonna do a really fast preamble here. I'm Randall Beatrice. Never mind. All right, that's Chris. That's Chris Anatuano.
I'm Randall
Austin
Beatrice.
Blake's
I'm
just
also
here.
Randall Beatrice.
Shit, I panicked.
And this is
Anatuano. Fuck.
If Randall happened to play notorious future piece of shit Anthem, and he was split into 3 people, and we all suck.
Oh, what a deep cut to the Anthem demo.
Yeah. What a trash game.
Which one of my?
I also played failed Iron Man Simulator
Here's
this
the thing.
weekend.
If I say that Anthem sucks now, then by the time this podcast comes out, when the
It's
episode is out, it will be relevant.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
Yeah.
that's perfect. Yeah, the game will be out. They'll have patched it. It'll be a great game that nobody bought.
Division 2.
EA
right on
will
the
be
horizon.
tanked. There'll be another game that a company that nobody cares
So
about.
how about you, Austin? Are you enjoying the free-to-play Titanfall Battle Royale game that's supposed to get announced in a couple hours and may not be real? Or
I love it.
okay, all right,
It's like Fortnite, but not.
yeah.
Also,
Titanfall.
super
With no Titans.
super government shutdown. Favorite game of the year so far.
Super government shutdown simulator RPG.
Yeah.
All right, this is the third part, the exciting conclusion to our ESRB trilogy about the history and formation of the group that does what they do.
Y'all listened, you know.
Yeah, you all know that No, you know what?
go back.
Leave it in. It is.
Are you
It's
talking about creationism?
no,
Is that what this podcast is about?
It is now.
that makes age and content descriptors on all of our favorite video games today.
The Bible.
Yeah.
The 10 Commandments of
So
violent
where we
video
last
games.
left off.
Thou shall not copy Bungie for the rest of time.
Oh no.
You still feeling
You
it?
I had one more grievance from the Anthem demo. There was literally a part where they copy and pasted the Vex environment.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's literally like that polygonal fucking with overgrowth.
If they wanted to steal
How
something,
are they not being sued?
Why didn't they steal a game that ran well?
You dare
They
insult
stole-
Destiny in my presence?
No, they stole from
That's
a game
that's what I'm
that ran
saying.
well.
They take
okay,
that
okay.
part. Destiny at least
Right.
plays and runs like
Go
a
into
dream.
the episode, because if we keep talking about Anthem, I'm just going to keep getting more upset and angry.
About BioWare.
Ugh, then
All right.
why? What happened?
So
Sorry, continue.
No, you're right. Where we last left off was the ultimatum that was given by the government about.
That's how you say that.
Uh-huh. What was that ultimatum? This was in the Video Game Rating Act of 1994. This was that bill that said that a proper universal rating system must be implemented for all games that would be commercially distributed, like by Nintendo and Sega, and sold at all your major retailers, or that they would step in and do it themselves. That
Now, did they give a timeline? Did they say
it
how?
was exactly 1 year.
So they had 1
by
year to set up
February,
a-
the next year, this had to be done.
Okay.
And this was last episode. We got a little bit into our console wars stuff after that first hearing. So we're going to pick this up right at the second hearing, because that bill was introduced in February, and the second hearing, while the other companies were scrambling to collaborate and join forces, this was in March of 1994 that they had a follow-up meeting regarding the bill, as well as some more little sneaky footage of the upcoming Doom. Jack Highstand of the newly formed Industry Rating Council announced that 7 major game companies would comply in working on an official unified rating system in time for the upcoming holiday season. These companies were Nintendo
This
and
is
Sega.
the year that. This is the
This
same
is the
year.
year. This is the year
Okay.
that did it.
So
This all worked very fast.
Yeah, so
surprisingly enough.
February they said the bill's coming. That holiday season is
Yeah.
when this is happening.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. This is Nintendo and Sega putting away their differences finally. Atari, Electronic Arts, Acclaim, and 3DO and Philips. You know, those guys. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know.
Yep.
More relevant than
Notorious for making failed expensive game consoles and screwdrivers.
Yeah.
Wait, 3DO made screwdrivers? Yeah, could you hand me a 3DO head?
So they had they had this second meeting. This seemed a little bit less snidely than the first one. I don't know if this one was televised. But after months of behind closed doors planning, a conference was called that summer. This is on July 31st, bringing back all those same parties as before. And this was where the Entertainment Software Ratings Board was finally born after the collaboration of those companies reached a unified agreement on a system in which all their products could be consistently and forever rated on. They explained here that the system would be similar to the MPAA, that the Motion Picture something association.
Motion Picture Association of America.
Oh, that was
the
close.
MPAA.
And feature 5 age restrictions. They had EC for early childhood, which was supposed to be similar to G. KA, kids to adults, was PG. T for teen was PG-13. M for mature was the R. And the seldom used AO, adults only, would be the equivalent of that fainted NC-17. We did talk a little bit about this rating process prior in the Oblivion episode. We may have brought it up, I think, in the San Andreas one instead of the Hot Coffee one. But the Oblivion episode, I think we talked about the submission packet thing.
Yeah. Well, they got rid of a lot of those early ones, obviously.
Yeah,
to
they
make way
did.
for
A lot
E.
of these changed over the years for sure, and I'll also get into that. But yeah, the process is essentially of you compiling footage of all of your most explicit, and along with the description of what the game is and what the game contains. And then it was basically like the trust system of being like, hey, you're open and honest about anything in the game that could be considered,
subversive.
I mean,
controversial. Violent.
Anything of a nature.
Troubling?
Anything of a nature.
Cummed on.
Sexy?
Yeah, sexy. I mean, this also included language, drug use, and content, as well as a couple of other things. Gambling.
Yeah. Allow me some drug use.
All your violence.
Gambling.
You and me both, brother.
And that you did sign contracts saying that you showed everything open.
Which again came up in the Hot Coffee episode and the Oblivion episode.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because obviously
Cocaine and cards, by the way, one of my favorite video games ever produced.
The committee rating these games didn't have the time to play through all these huge experiences and
of course
write
not.
everything. Unlike the MPA, which watches a film and then determines the rating.
Because the longest they would have to sit is 4 hours.
Yeah,
it's not
I think game companies can even say, "Hey, we're shooting for a teen rating, or our game is most likely going to get an M rating. Here's all the stuff in it," and then
Picture the guy who'd have to sit through the garbage cutscenes of Kingdom Hearts 3 to rate that game.
Burn Disney.
Kingdom Hearts is great. All those cutscenes are well written.
For a minute, I thought you were going to say
sense.
something useful.
Fuck you. Yo, talk about giving your heart into the darkness, right?
So also included here of these lists of age descriptors, or also listed of all these age ratings, they also showed off their 17 content descriptions. Never mind that a bunch of these would later change and get added. As we talked around, they'd get shifted around. Because I think when they first started, this was pretty vague. It would just be like violence, language, whatever.
Blood,
nowadays,
gore.
They split the stuff out into, blood and gore.
That's what I look for. If it doesn't have blood and gore,
You don't buy it?
I don't
Yo,
buy
ready?
it.
Yeah.
You want to hear the ESRB's current content descriptors?
There's a
'Cause
lot.
There's like 30 now.
There's 30, I have that later
Yeah.
on in here that they added a bunch.
Alcohol reference.
Yeah.
Animated blood.
Yeah.
Reference.
Not the reference, not the
Yeah.
use of. That's a separate one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Animated blood and gore.
They don't use animated much anymore.
Cartoon violence.
Yeah.
Comic mischief.
There's a fantasy
Crude
violence.
humor.
comic mischief.
Yeah.
Like, so what, if you drop like an anvil on somebody?
Yeah,
you get
no,
the
literally.
comic
Depictions of
Crude
dialogue
humor, I think.
involving slapstick or suggestive humor.
Yeah, that's for your cartoony,
Drug references.
Yeah.
Reference to and or images of illegal drugs. Edutainment.
Yeah.
Fantasy violence. Informational. Intense violence.
Yes.
Language.
Now we're
lyrics.
getting into the good stuff. Yeah,
Mature
lyrics.
humor, mild violence, nudity, partial nudity, real gambling, sexual themes, sexual violence, simulated gambling, some adult assistance may be needed, strong language, strong
that?
lyrics.
That's the educational one for kids.
That's the one where kids might need help playing it, I guess.
Yeah.
Strong strong lyrics, strong sexual content, suggestive themes, tobacco reference, use of drugs, use of alcohol, use of tobacco, and then just straight up violence.
Yeah, that's the
Red
biggest
Dead have
one
to
ever.
have all of those.
Yeah, most Rockstar games have all the sexual violence. I think is one as well, which you don't see that much. I know that Metal Gear.
Yeah,
game
unless
had
you're
that.
in Custard's Revenge.
Strong sexual content.
No, they actually have a separate. I don't know if they used it for that game, which was very strange. What's interesting too is that, like you mentioned, the violence one being last. If you look at the back of Lego Star Wars and also look at the back of like Driver, one says rated E for violence, the other one says rated M for violence. It's very funny, which is probably why a lot of this later stuff came back.
Well, that's why they changed it now so that there's cartoon violence and
Intense
Yeah,
violence.
Lego
fantasy
Star Wars has a
violence.
lot of sexual violence in it, for sure.
A lot of drug use as well.
a lot of slapstick.
Yeah. But a lot of this groundwork, a lot of this came from 3DO's personal rating system that they put into effect earlier that year in an attempt to combat some of that backlash.
Oh, so they were good for something.
Maybe. This was where the later used E for Everyone rating came from that replaced KA.
Really?
Yeah. Along with the AO rating came from them as well. Otherwise, they had a 12 and 17 rating. They had 4.
Dude, the
but adults
3DO
only
was
came
like
from them.
$800.
It
That
was. Yeah,
still
so
to
was
this
the
day is
CDI.
so insane to me,
Yeah.
dude.
And the Amiga and Neo Geo, it's nuts. Those consoles were like a fucking grand. It's fucking
insane.
bananas.
Cutting edge.
Cutting edge.
edge.
Yeah, for sure.
But here's the thing: they were ready. Like game companies were ready this time. They weren't going to be like berated like
They weren't
last
going to
time.
get cooked by Nintendo
No,
again.
no. Well, Nintendo at least
Don't
was
use
on.
that word.
Yeah. But this was interesting. This is interesting because all of these companies had responses to everything. These politicians were ready to like drop the mic again, and they were prepared, and they had responses. Fucking
Nothing
ready
I
to
love
go.
more than nerds putting it in the faces of career politicians.
So with all of these representatives from these various game companies finally unified, the politicians that came out were ready to hammer down questions.
It's
Basically,
a Warsaw Pact of game developers.
Lieberman.
The anthem of Senate hearings.
When Joe Lieberman asked how people would know what a game was rated, they said they would not only make sure to have all ratings be prominently featured on all future titles' box arts, but that it would also be addressed in the ads for the games themselves as well. A tradition still being used today. You see it in every trailer.
Rated
pops up.
E for everyone.
Yeah, rated M for mature. When Lieberman asked how they would be able to afford doing this, they said that they would be charging a fee for publishers during the rating submission process. Again,
Oh, there we
still
go.
used
That comes
today.
up if you listen to our previous episodes.
Yeah.
What is it, 10 or 20 grand?
I don't
or
know.
whatever it
Yeah,
is.
that's around what it was. It may be more now, or maybe it's relative to the regular to the
I
size
don't
of the
think
company.
it was that much back then.
Yeah, no,
Maybe
probably not.
Yeah. When Lieberman asked why publishers would pay for that, they responded with saying that there would be tough sanctions on companies that didn't comply prior to the release of their game. The 7 of them with Sony, also, by the way, joining later that year with the launch of the first PlayStation. All of those companies represented the majority stake in games across the country, and that they would not only disallow unrated titles from appearing on any of their platforms, but they had to be rated exclusively by the ESRB and no one else. They're pretty much being like, hey, this is going to be the way it is, like for everyone. We're not going to play favorites.
And this is
gonna
kind
be
of
the
like
way
a
it is.
stake in the ground to good luck starting your own console.
Kinda, yeah.
Yeah,
Or
you
good.
know what I
Well,
mean?
it's more like good luck publishing your own game at the time. Now you have a rise of unrated games with Steam and the mobile platforms and stuff, but like,
Well,
what's-
that's PC
yeah.
has always been.
Well, PC, yeah,
Yeah,
has always been as
exactly.
well.
Always
That's not
been the
where a lot
outside.
of the money is. Sometimes it can be, but for the most part,
No,
like,
exactly.
yeah.
Console gaming is definitely where it's at.
Yeah.
This is kind of like a good luck starting your own console because you'd have to.
Yeah,
you'd
good
have
luck.
to fall in line.
You got to go through here. You got to come through us. Because the funny thing is, they said, well, this entire process was technically voluntary. That those sanctions could still absolutely cripple a title's financial success if they didn't
Yeah.
they didn't go through with it. A practice still being used by most manufacturers today, with more and more of those in the industry relatively being forced to join or face the consequences otherwise. In which case, most of those
And
consequences just means that your
Yeah.
game doesn't get distributed on the platforms you want it to.
And thank God games that are subversive for consoles are made by companies who have enough money to
Do something about that,
something
yeah.
like that.
Which is why
yeah.
you see a lot of indie devs seeking out, that's why like the publisher developer relationship still kind of exists in a lot of
Yeah.
ways. Lieberman,
Or you just publish on Steam where you don't
Yeah, I was
have
gonna
to
say,
do
yeah,
yeah,
that.
exactly.
and you'll
That's why I
get
said
lost and
console.
forgotten in a sea
Yeah,
of
exactly.
bullshit.
Bullshit. They're all great games.
Yeah.
Find one Steam game that's not good.
I dare you to look up on your phone right now with the newest Steam releases.
All right, keep going. I'm doing it.
All right. So Lieberman, he's still coming strong. He's still trying. He's like, okay, they got that one. They got that one. They got this one. So when he asked about those producing work independently, I guess what we were just talking about, who weren't on those platform of consoles, that was when the Defenders played their ace in the hole. This was when they brought representatives from Walmart, Toys R Us, and every other major retailer that they could to come in and say that they would not permit any entertainment products that didn't follow the ESRB's guidelines to even have a place on their shelves.
And that kind of falls in line with the CDs thing.
Yes, this was a huge fucking move.
This is a huge
This
move.
is such a major disincentive for resistant publishers. Even Lieberman himself was surprised by this in the hearing.
Yeah, absolutely.
They did not see that
Yeah,
coming.
you have to get the retailers behind you to be like, hey, you have to, if it doesn't come through this, because think about the time period this is. Like, when you rewind it 10 years, us three, we can make a game and like go to a company and get them to throw a chip inside of a cartridge that was shaped like a Genesis.
There were companies in that era doing that. That Bubble Bath Babes, that game I referenced last episode.
Yeah, we can make a game that would run on Genesis today. Like this week we could. You know what I mean?
You're going to tell me that The Lesbian Doctors isn't a good video game? Lesbian, by the way, spelled Lezbi. Look at these fucking screenshots.
I don't think.
Oh God!
I don't think that got rated by the ESRB.
We just gave a boost to Lesbian Doctors sales on Steam.
Shout out to Lesbian
Please
Doctors.
don't buy that game.
If you're looking for something to do with your latest $3.99 earned from working or doing chores.
Just take that $4, throw it right in the trash.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I knew what it looked like. You didn't even have to show me. It looked like somebody made a mod for Second Life.
It does say this game is marked as adults only. You are seeing this game because you have set your preferences to allow this type of content.
They wrote that. There's no rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're not gonna see ESRB tags on that thing.
Oh no, I'm not reading that. Sorry, continue.
Okay. So now with the retailers on their side, it's just like your phone is dirty. With the retailer,
I gotta burn it after this.
With all these companies on their side, these retailers, they were ready for anything else that Lieberman wanted to try and throw at them because they're like, hey, we're doing everything
we got
you said.
capitalism on our side.
Yeah,
now, what do you think about that? Well, since I am a cog of capitalism, I cannot retort.
And as icing on the cake, by the way, this was completely optional. The ESRB also said they were committed to even form a promotional campaign, too, to help consumers, and more importantly, parents, angry parents, aware of the change. They went on to say that their team would be private, although they would still seek public input on various issues.
The Council of Future Bob Cuts of Mothers decides to weigh in on the ESRB.
With victory on their horizon, despite one minor hiccup when the senator asked about whether or not there would be an initiative to go back and re-rate all the old games that were unrated, to which the Defenders replied with that the uptake would be literally impossible to do with those thousands of titles already on the market. Yeah,
exactly. How the fuck
did they even expect? I know. This even gave them a chance to approve a benefit to all the artists and engineers working too, because there were still a lot of developers who weren't involved in this fight yet, who didn't want to be censored, who don't have a voice in this. And that's when the ESRB said that they would only communicate with publishers on the rating process and never tell developers on what they can and can't create.
Up front, that sounds cool.
Up front, because
it's
absolutely.
Like, hey, we're not gonna fuck with you.
Yeah.
But also at
they
the same
later
time,
did anyway. But
at the same time, that puts it into the hands of private companies to judge whether they think the content they're producing is moral or not, and then that allows only certain games to go through certain avenues and publishers to be discarded away from the mainstream, and that's how you get...
As we've talked about before, the system still failed in many cases where some artists were affected, but for the most part, that is a noble idea. And I think that many developers still feel that this was an infinitely better alternative to almost anything else.
Yeah, exactly. To government-regulated video games.
But with everybody finally appearing satisfied on all sides, the speakers were applauded and the ESRB and their practices approved and to be implemented ASAP. Games would finally be free again, at least, for now.
Yeah.
But this was a huge win. What's interesting is that after this, the immediate outcome was also sort of interesting because game publishers, when I was researching this timeline and watching a lot of this content, which I'll do some call outs to where I got a lot of this information from, this whole story was in a span of such a short period of time that it's kind of incredible.
Yeah, what?
Like,
what, 4 years tops? 2
like,
years?
From where the beginning of the hearings to now, it's like a year and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I'm kind of surprised that the...
Well, okay, it shouldn't surprise you that anybody who was in these higher ups of game development, they couldn't see that what was coming. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They couldn't see that gaming was I'm just thinking the whole time we're talking about this, thank God we got this out of the way early.
I know, yeah.
Because the slog that it would have been to battle
the
this
examples
nowadays.
they would show now. I think when Austin's
Picture gamers trying to get an almost chain broken from the government nowadays had they had regulated.
So Austin brought up the Trump's attack on video games before, and how that came up. I think after the Parkland, Florida shooting last year, the high school one. What's interesting is they did the same thing that they did back in this time was they built a compilation of footage of excerpts from violent games, and I think you can watch it on YouTube, and it feels very 90s the way it's edited. What if we took this shot of someone's head exploding in Fallout, using the VAT system, and then just back to back with some random Call of Duty cutscene, and it's just we already fought this battle and won so long ago, for it to
bring
have
it
to
on,
be
notorious Victor, president of the United States.
But after this, everything went into effect. Like I said, this was the very end of July of that summer, July 31st. Game publishers quickly all adapted the new system, while developers are constantly kept informed about all of the guidelines. And most of this with pretty positive feedback. Even Doom was eventually re-rated by the ESRB this time rather than that initial thing. But, and it clearly didn't affect sales,
No.
But high-produced ads started starring celebrities, and pro athletes began airing around the country and being shown in movie theaters. You can watch some of these on YouTube. They're pretty funny. It's like Tiger Woods playing golf, talking to your kids about violent games. And
talking to your kids about marrying and then being loyal to your wife.
He lost his Powerade deal because of that, man.
Who's going to advertise for Lincoln cars now?
Matthew McConaughey.
That's fair.
Interestingly enough, however, the arcade industry was not affected by this entire thing and never adapted that rating system.
No, because by the late 90s, people forgot arcades existed anyway.
Well, yeah, that's also true. But what's weird is they already had their own coalition. So apparently the American Amusement Machine Association cited fundamental differences between the coin-operated and consumer segments of the video game industry as their reasoning.
Yeah. Let us make our money off of 25 cents, please, commission.
Pretty much. Them and the Amusement and Music Operators Association.
And the Council of Wide-Brimmed Lower Pants Playing on DDR Machines Association that kept arcades alive.
Instead used a 3-tier color-coded system of green, yellow, and red to represent each level of a game's intensity fixed to the cabinet's artwork and title screen. You guys have probably seen these in arcades before.
Never. I've never noticed it. I'm sure they're there. Never noticed it.
Yeah. It's
as a guy who spent way too much money at arcades.
If you saw Carnival, it would have a red screen that would just be
fucking Carnival.
Yeah.
Dude, the amount of hours I've put in Carnival waiting for my movie to come about is just absurd.
I mean, most arcade games are usually for as broad of an audience as possible, so they were mostly green or yellow, but there was a select few titles that maybe a little a game weirdly enough had a higher rating in the arcades? Crazy Taxi.
Really?
Because it had cursing in it. If you were
Bad Religion on the soundtrack.
Yeah, it's true. Bad Religion and the Offspring. If you were driving the if you were late, the customers would berate you and they'd be like, "God damn it!" and yelling at you in the backseat. It's very funny. So today, there are 6 age categories now for video games under the ESRB banner, and over 30 content descriptors that Austin just read. Yeah.
What are the ratings?
They're for the most part the same. The content descriptions have much more precise detail that we were talking about, but I think we talked about KA became E for everyone.
Okay.
They introduced the E10 rating for ages 10 and
I've
up.
seen that
was in the early 2000s.
That's weird.
Yeah, I forget what was the first. I think Donkey Kong Jungle Beat or one of the Burnout games was the first rated.
And I'm sure that is tied to some assistance thing.
No, the E10 was basically hey, there's nothing between a G and a PG-13 essentially. But
Okay,
what's weird is There were a lot of people fighting that there should be a rating between T and M because T means nothing and M means everything now.
That's true. Absolutely.
And they're right, but nothing ever actually came out of that. There was like this initiative in the early 2000s to like try and push for that, but I don't think it went anywhere. The labels themselves also got bigger on the boxes, and then they featured the age numbers because what's weird is like they featured them on the back, but now it just flat out says in the front like 13 and up, 17 and up. And it took a long time for this because I was really surprised by this because we talked about this previously in an older episode about the other international rating systems. Japan adapted their own rating system in 2002 under a group called Zero, and then Europe would follow suit a year later in 2003 with Peggy. And it's very weird. Like, it's crazy how long that took, like almost 10 years after the fact.
Well, mostly because they don't care as much about regulating entertainment as we do.
Yeah. Well, they also they're fighting
when you're trying to
things
when you're
usually.
trying to subjugate your giant population into the cogs of the industrial military complex, you need rating systems much more than other countries do.
This is a video game podcast, Chris.
Yes, I'm sorry.
But I think we're gonna leave it in. This whole.
No, I just whispered "kill the proletariat."
Oh no, that definitely isn't. Just if you play this backwards, it says 6 Enter Tyrannus over and over again. But we're gonna do a little bit of our closing statements here on this. So thank you for everybody for sticking through this whole thing. Now, obviously, this isn't the full story of the ESRB. There was still some pushback that I mentioned later. Like this is just their history of how they became who they are. Like their story extends beyond 1994. I mentioned that pushback about how there's a lot of games that don't perfectly fit into certain categories, while others caught flack of trying to push the boundaries. You know, your manhunts and stuff like that. The AO rating is still worthless. Yeah. There's you could do a whole episode practically just on that single rating, and like the high price point of having to submit a game can be crippling to indie devs. We've talked about that before. There's always room for improvement. And the thing I think I brought up earlier, but that Lieberman came back. He came back this time with John McCain to try and pass the Media Violence
Notorious
Labeling
dead
Act.
guy, John McCain,
R.I.P.
The Media Violence Labeling Act, or whatever, I forget what it was called, beyond that, of whatever year, trying to say that the ESRB wasn't good enough, is what Austin was touching upon. But I think that we're going to get into next time, because that's going to lead us to our sequel episode. I'm rubbing my hands together with the video game as art discussion kind of.
God,
fine, I know. We love bringing that up.
What a nuanced discussion that will be.
But that's what's going to lead us into our games finally getting ruled under that First Amendment protection.
The official title of the case, by the way,
that
we will be covering in the next episode is Brown versus the Entertainment Merchants Association.
All right.
Yeah. You know, Brown famous for fighting against the Board of Education. And
right, Brown versus the Board of Education. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That was why does this sound
little semi-popular case that happened in U.S. history.
I only know video games history. All other history irrelevant.
You know.
But I think that might do it. I do want to throw some special thanks to for a lot of the research I got to do on this one. There was a couple independent channels, but for the most part, there's a channel called Gaming Historian that has a lot of good information in the ESRB. There's an episode of Icons, that old G4 show that covered stuff. It's a little scatterbrained because they have to condense it into 22 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
But for the most part, a lot of the stuff is out there, but piecing it all together is really interesting. It was fun to do all this.
And thanks for listening. I mean, this has been a long fucking slog. If you've enjoyed it, this is 3 hours worth of stuff.
Because now we have episodes out there, and people are responding to it in a way that is really warming, especially for these multi-parters, and so which we want to do more of. But
thanks for listening all the way through. I mean, this has been fucking awesome. I've learned so much about the
engage
ESRB
with us whenever you want. Yeah, but we do have that next episode coming soon, which is also going to be kind of our cap on just sort of this.
Yeah, really. This is not a 3-parter. This is going to be a lot more parts, because this is going to be similar to our Xbox and Xbox 360 episodes, where I think the next episode is going to pick up right with the thing Randy mentioned right at the end, the Media Violence Labeling Act, and then go all the way up to our old pal Donnie Trump.
Boy.
But that one will probably also be in multiple parts, just because there's a lot of information there too.
Definitely, for sure.
Yeah.
And go back and find some old episodes if you want. I was re-listening to some myself, and
they are good.
And this is... There's one episode where it sounds like I'm defending the Star Wars prequels, and I really need to address that was not my... That it was absolutely sarcastic.
Yeah,
they are some of the worst movies ever made. Oh my god! And anything going on with Star Wars as a brand now is
The
infinitely
anthem
better.
demo of Star Wars movies.
Like it almost sounded like I forget where it was, some old episode, but it literally sounded like I was defending the prequels, and I
will defend the prequels.
What?
Yeah,
We're
absolutely.
gonna fight.
Jar Jar Binks is one of the best characters of all time, dude.
It's such a nightmare. Oh. God, me and Austin rewatched them all right before 7 came out,
And they hold up.
All right,
me
let's
tell
let's end this.
yeah,
and
all
we'll
right. No,
carry
just
these
talk
talks
about
off.
Star Wars. But yeah, that has been our history of the ESRB Hot Futton trilogy. So
Hot Futton, that's my shit, yeah. All right, check out Hot Futton across the board.
Yeah,
at
all right. Let's do the
Hotfuttoncast.
let's do the plugs. So Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Hot Futtoncast. Hot Buttoncast.
Hot Futton Fast.
Now you're screwing me up. You can listen to it on.
I don't screw up my words when I'm speaking normally.
You talk so fast you don't notice you're screwing up your words.
Next episode,
Sorry.
the vocal bout.
Next episode is just gonna be me and Randy fist fighting. So tune in for that one.
You can make a compilation of all the times I've tripped over my words in this. It's good that I do a
And
lot of
if
the
you're
speaking.
a fan and you do, I'll give you something. A secret prize.
Wait, I want to hear more
for a
about
minute,
this
I thought
prize.
that was going to be set up for a joke.
Yeah, eventually, when the secret prize is something obscure and stupid. Just cut all this out.
All right, we
Just
got-
continue.
Win a copy
You
of
can-
Leisure Suit Larry, signed by Chris.
You can listen in to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify. Those are the three I keep bringing up. There's more. You'll figure it out.
Are there?
I believe in you.
There's a couple.
Pod-
yeah.
Podbean.
Podbean, Stitcher.
There's like
Yo, we're on Stitcher?
any combination of like
know
pod
that.
and then another word like pod folder is probably an app.
Yeah.
Pod shoe.
Pod Nazi.
Pod Nazi.
We're not on Pod Nazi.
We
Wait,
might-
what?
we
No,
might
not
be.
yet.
Yeah.
If you mention Hitler enough, I think you automatically get on Pod Nazi.
Always boils down to Hitler, this hangnail way of ending all these
Stop
episodes.
talking about anti-Semitism. Tune in next week to learn more about the government trying to keep us down.
Yeah, with that, we're out.
Yeah, bye.